Hello and welcome to Against All Odds. My name is Rachel Mwenyeheli and it is the year 2026. Aren't we excited about what the year can bring? And this year we promise you that we'll be giving you programs that will inspire you even more. Today I am joined by Precious Kiwiti, who is a gender-based violence survivor. She's here to tell her story. As women, sometimes we go through different forms of gender-based violence and sometimes we make excuses for these things until we get to a point where we say enough is enough. Please help me welcome Precious to the program. Precious, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for coming through to talk about gender-based violence, especially, for women, because it's something that a lot of women may be experiencing, but they hide behind, the silence and the shame and the guilt, and, they'll be thinking, maybe ndindine problem. But let's just talk about you because you're here to share your story. Maybe you can start off by telling us, your upbringing. How was it like?
Growing up, I grew up in a family of 8, and we were 2 girls, me being the last one. The eldest one was more like my mom because she was way too old, and she passed away early because of gender-based violence as well, and she left 2 kids. So I grew up now with more boys, and the way that I was raised, it was like, be like a man. And I was a very ambitious young lady with a very beautiful dream, but I ended up getting married, I can say a little bit early, because I was 21, and I'm very sure that I was not yet fully grown to be a woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you talked about your eldest sister, you looked at her almost like a mom as well because she was older. Within the family, was she the first person you saw to experience gender-based violence?
So what happened when I grew up now, reflecting back to what she was going through, that's when I realized, like, okay, she also went through what I went through, because she took almost 10 years without having a child. So I was more like her own child. So staying with her, how she was being treated with her, with my late Bankuro, I can say, it was GBV.
And you saw it?
I saw it.
Okay.
And there are times that I remember vividly where I didn't want to be left in the same room with my Bankuro because I was scared of him.
Okay.
That's what I can say. Yeah.
Now, coming to your story, you say that you got married when you were 21. So I'm sure you started dating this man at the time, and it was all, romantic and lovely. You know how love is, especially at a young age. It's quite exciting. Tell us, when you were dating this man, did you ever notice any red flags?
Oh. You know what? After you are now out of the situation, that's when you see those things. During the time that you'll be in love, some of these things we ignore because we are talking about, I would say it in a vernacular language. Kunonoka kwa answer call. It will be an issue. Yekuti taitokwanisa kunetsana, but pamwe pacho ndezokuti hakuenda nonoka ndichiite, and took the blame. But those things, controlling, us women, we love to be called. My phone call like wajgaere, the way to wajgaere, and you're like, oh, this is it. But it ended up being a controlling stance.
Okay.
To an extent, tarorana, it was no longer interesting because every minute you are being called urikupi, urukite. Sometimes when he feels good to know, I need to make sure, like the time you would ask, can I talk to the kid? Not out of love, just to check, to make sure that uripa chase. So the red flags, yes, they were there. And because my mind, yaida kudiwa, when you have hunger to be loved. And for me, because of my background, we grew up in a Christian background where having, and in Nandri surrounded, never common, dating was not an option, and everyone was afraid to approach me. So now, Peter, this guy, Anima Guards, and Harunian Sondida, and you feel that, and the fact you put him, my parents, vaishanda vese, my dad and my mom, and they couldn't have enough time to spend with us, especially me being a girl child. I don't remember having more time with her, like even to talk about dating issues. We didn't have that. So now, having someone giving you, let's say, a card, I love you, it was something big. It's something that I was missing even from my own parents. So the red flags were there, but the love was making me blind with this awareness. Everything was just perfect.
Right.
Of course, it escalated when we were now in marriage. But
when you say it escalated when you were now married, okay, now this is an escalation from that controlling behavior, and trying to find out when you say it escalated, how did it escalate?
For me, I'll just give one example. When I got married to my second marriage, I was running a restaurant, very successful. It could accommodate 300 people at once, which was big. And when you're running a restaurant, you are supposed to go floor, asking my customer, getting the feedbacks and all those kind of stuff. But that time when we patakaonana, zvese zvekushanda and what hazvinambotaurwa nezvazvo, but you would see someone who would come and wait for you, seeing you doing all those rounds and what, and tamumba manje. I don't feel comfortable with those eyes varume zvavanokutarisa zvaunongochisekerana nevarume zvatochinja. Then the next thing you have to stop. Ndokumbira because it's something that I loved so much. But ndakumbira kuti ndiite outside catering. But outside catering yacho futhi because kune vanhu and I'm dealing with people. Someone was angani insecurities ake to an extent that you have to stop. So now you are someone who is so used to kuzvishandira, une mari dzako, wakafunga kuti uda ice cream kana kuti mwana akachemera kana kuti chocolate, you are able to buy. And you are now at that situation that you have to ask for $1. And now asking for $1, that person akutofila kuti wakumuninedza, wakutukwa, wakudi, and the glow, when you're doing things on your own, there's this glow that just comes out, like you are good, mafuta no bata. Why a full-time housewife? And the man is not providing exactly what you expect or what you used to do for yourself. Things change. Okay. And because nekunetsa kwaita, you find kuti you end up losing the glow and achakone semunhu aimbokona.
Right. Well, there, Precious narrating her story of some of the forms of gender-based violence she actually experienced. When we come back from the break, we want to get into detail. What were some of these forms of gender-based violence that she experienced? Because it's not only just one. And she said that she did go through 2 marriages. So when we come back from the break, we'll get into detail with that. This is Against All Odds. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Against All Odds. We continue with Precious as she's narrating a story. At this point, we want to find out, in her first marriage, what was the extreme that made her decide this is enough and I'm quitting and I'm leaving. It's time for me to go. Precious, I understand that you went through 2 marriages and both of them, from just, your previous narration, were consisting of gender-based violence. But let's go back to the first marriage. I understand in the first marriage, your husband then was quite controlling. I control. In other words, wamuntu kuchengera. If that's the case, wamuntu kuchengera not kuchengera rudo. But pane kumwe kuchengera kwakoti kunova kwanyaya kuva kuti kuda kunyaya kuziva kuti kunyaya kuconfine. Auntie, ando zvawakaenda through. Is there anything else that you went through in the first marriage?
So for me, the one particular incident, like abuse yandingati yakazondipusha to come out of it, it was physical.
All right.
To an extent that I felt kuti the person akatondiseva was my then father-in-law.
Okay.
And pazvese zvaiitika, because you know these people, they are so much in, like both of them, they were so loving. Like they knew zvandinoda. They knew my weakness angu. They knew how to, more than zvandozviziva inini.
So they knew how to manipulate
Yeah. Saka sorry yacho yanyatsouya endonyatsoti ndizvozvo chaizvo, then makore otowedzera to an extent yekuti at this one pakaitika an incident yekuti ndakarohwa because of nharo dzataingoita paTV. You know kuti this car is nice. Aiwa toti Raptor yakanaka. But iyi ndo yakanaka, then zvinhu zvotochinja, wakutorohwa paipaya to an extent yekuti I had to talk to my in-laws because kumsana wako ndakatorohwa netambo yemagetsi, ndikatorohwa, but kuti ndiende kumba manje, like what I said, kuti I was the only girl, and you know, growing up in ghetto, getting married, it was something big, and going back to be called a returned soldier, it was something that I didn't want to do. So every time that I would go back home, I would make sure that I'm perfect and everything is looking good, and no one, even my own mom, because we didn't have that relationship that I was talking about, I couldn't even tell her.
Okay.
But my father-in-law then, then I managed to come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wakarohwa to the extent it was over nharo dzepaTV, just having a normal conversation.
Yeah.
Munhu ndobva atotsama kutosvika pakutokurova netambo yemagetsi.
Yeah.
Wakakwara zvakanyanyira.
Tambo yemagetsi.
I know, and I know inosiya muzvidhindo.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Was it that violent?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was. Yange iri tambo yemagetsi, and with abuse, I can safely say there is no abuse which is better.
Aikurova pekuti vanhu vaiona kuti warohwa here kana kuti aingokurova nzvimbo dzekuti waigona kukavha nehembe?
Pamwe vaiona, but they didn't have any say.
All right.
And I remember very well going to my mother-in-law and showing her the scars. Chavakangokwanisa kutaura vangoti zvakaoma, and that was that.
So you were crying for help, but no one ever got to a point where vakataura neye murume wako at that time kuti zvauri kuita
I'm
zvakashata?
sure vaitaura naye, but because maybe, you know, this one child wekuti family inonge ichitongoziva kuti uyu anonge akatongonzi uyu hamuzive uyu, that was the thing. Okay. Saka I understand kuti ivo nerimwe side they were caught in between. Mwana wavo nerimwe side, I'm sure they knew kuti kune police kunokwanisa kuendwa and what, but they couldn't allow me to go that further because at the end of the day, wavo ndiyaita sei aisungwa, because I reached out to them. I couldn't have courage to reach out to my own people. Maybe vangadai vakaita a different mabatsiriro avakaita kwandiri. So that was the thing. Yeah.
All right. I sense, you know, you talked about the physical aspect. You also talk about, you know, physical aspect kurohwa chaiko. Auntie, it was physical abuse. You also talked about the emotional aspect where someone is trying to control you, control zvaunenge uchiita. Kuti anenge achiona kuti iwewe kuzvisenzera uneka glow, you're an independent woman, ukuzviitira zvinhu zvako. Over ati izvi handisi kuzvifarira chisiyana nazvo. Now you're dependent on this person financially, but even though you're financially dependent on this person, haasi kukupa mari yacho still yokuti uzvichengete kana kuti uchengete mumba mako pachezvako nevana vako. Unenge wakungoita basa rekungokumbira withholding money from you.
Yeah.
Is there any other form of abuse that you also suffered?
In one of the marriages, I experienced sexual abuse. I know when one is married, it's especially here in Zimbabwe, it doesn't make any sense for me to tell you that my husband had sexually abused me.
Yeah, it's impossible. People think it's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. So it's one of the things that I experienced where one could watch, we are watching TV, then the next thing, poeta scene, then he feels like you want to do that. Then tie you on a bed, you know, then the next thing, you are hating me, but enjoy. Then the next thing, I'm sorry, I may know what got into me. So I experienced that as well. But knowing kuti even if I come to another woman and say kuti ndakarepwa nemurume, it doesn't make any sense, especially when you have kids. What's that?
Especially if you're married and if you have kids, how is that even possible? But
Saka, generally, all forms of abuse, myself, I can safely say that I experienced everything, because from controlling, takuenda financial and chakwanise kuenda kubasi, takucontrol refinance, ndato abused emotionally, ndakurowa, ndato depression, because I remember very well, I got so depressed to an extent I wanted to take my life. I attempted twice and survived, and it was something chekuti no one could understand. And the worst part, all people who were around me, they didn't know what was going on, because I would put up that face. Even Kuchechi being in a praise and worship team, people, they see me, and everything was just good. And me going back again and saying, it was something. So I had these two jackets. Kumba, I was a different human being. When I go out, I'm a different human being. Even I'm being abused to you, it won't make sense. But one thing that I know for sure, like if I look back at photos right now, I was a moving skeleton, and I wonder what was going on with people, because we had a skeleton up here, but no one had magati. Are you okay? Yeah.
Precious narrating a story, telling us the different forms of abuse that she actually went through in both of her marriage. Gender-based violence is real, and it's something that you may also be experiencing, but you might not know that it is gender-based violence and it is not right. Like she said, she is, or she was married at the time as she was narrating, but she actually experienced sexual abuse from her own husband, as she narrated. She also went through financial abuse, emotional abuse, different forms of it. And in instances like that, she thought, ndite return soldier. Kazhinji kacho tonzo wakadzi vachiti inini handite return soldier, ndinofira pamba pangu. But pane paunozoona kuti izvi hazvichaita, especially pamberi pevana vako. Because remember, kids also learn from your marriage and things like that. When we come back from the break, we want to find out from Precious what pushed her to say enough is enough, and what did she do to take steps to make sure that she got out of the second marriage and started living her life the way she thought would be a great example for her children. Oftentimes, we say, ndofira vana vangu, but is that the right thing to do? This is Against All Odds. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Against All Odds. We'll continue with Precious. And as you are saying, Precious, it's really sad to hear your story. But at the same time, in your voice, I can hear the strength that you gathered to say enough is enough. It's not always easy walking away. First and foremost, it's very difficult. You even say that you went to your mother-in-law over a very silly issue. But violent. And all she could say is, you went there expecting help, but you didn't get the help that you need. It's only after a while that, your father-in-law helped you escape this particular marriage. Let's talk about your escapes from both marriages when it comes to gender-based violence, because you're coming from the first marriage and you thought the second one would be better, but it wasn't. But how then did you gather the strength to say, I can't do this anymore and I got to do it for myself? Were you doing it for yourself? Were you doing it for your kids? What were you doing it for when you said enough is enough?
So the sad part now is I can't say that I personally made that choice. The choice that I took that moment was to end my life. And I remember this day, it was on a Sunday, and I have my eldest brother is an elder, Kuchech. So the idea was to take my life, not to me a message. Vapedza church in the around 2-3 wozoya collect a body yangu. Saka ndakatumira vana kuti vaende kuchurch, then I was left kumba. But that time, when you have brain like that moment, I can safely say that I was crazy. And that is the moment that I was taking my antidepressant tablets as well, because I felt like sleeping was close to death. And it's something that I needed so much, to an extent that I was abusing even those tablets to just make sure that ndarara. So I wrote a WhatsApp message, but I have mixed the different types of my drugs, my periods, my shonga, my codes, everything, because that day I was really sure that I was going to end it all. So that took me a message, Vanava Buddha. Luckily, my brother's wife, my sister-in-law, was the one holding the phone. And I was very sure, because he's the leader of the church, I knew that anongari pamberi pe church. So what happened, then my sister-in-law pakangona message, vakabva kutopinda muroad. Of course, it was close to where I was staying, and I was sitting, struggling, like my mind no, you can go on, peace, what about your kids, all those kind of things. I'm still struggling here. Then the door flew open, and my sister-in-law agreed, but that's a cup that I had. And that incident, here just being there, saved my life. From there, they took me and we went to her place. And of course, even up to now, I never had chance to ask her, Kuti, what made you to give me a fully equipped preschool? So from there, they made sure that they empowered me. Of course, they vakandibvisa pakashata voandisa in a safe space, which was their house. They didn't even push me to ask what happened and what. They just said, and even my husband then, they didn't even ask, but they knew something was not right. They gave me a fully equipped school. There at the preschool, you know, confidence, but now my parents able. They were coming, narrate my story. Like paneta my school fees and all sort of things. A parent would come in the morning. Dotanga kutaura naye saka muda watitidi otanga kutaura baba vekumba kwedu vari kudai. And vaita kunge vari kutorepeata to an extent yekuti I would end up talking about myself. Kuti see, I've been there panobudika. Ita so izvozvi pano pachikoro pamwe provider kana mablazer, provider kana masocks, uwane tumasenda. Ndakutotanga kuita empowering. And the funny thing, it was not only women, even men. There are men who are going through the same GBV thing even at home. Vamwe vakangosvika vakadhampirwa vana. Adhamba mwana, then get a second wife. Achinyatsozoti second wife is not good to my kid, but nekuti wapinda mune imwe marriage, wapinda futi mune imwe, wangoti rega ndingoshingirira. So that's when I can safely say kuti I healed through speaking my story. Like it was an everyday thing. And I would make sure that people, they have to see the results. And from there, that's when I said, okay, this is it. I found my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. Then we started Precious Hearts Haven in 2020.
Okay, so Precious Hearts Haven was meant to help those who are experiencing gender-based violence, both men and women.
Sure.
Okay, and was this a foundation where people would come and you'd be able to assist them?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. And I know Precious Hearts Haven then changed into something else. What did it change into?
It changed to WAVE, which is Women Against Violence and Exploitation. But now we were focusing more on women and girls because, of course, these problems, I can't solve everything on my own. We have other organizations which are dealing with men. Saka tinongoita referral. But in terms of counseling, I've noticed that men, they choose to talk to a woman more than a man. I don't know, for whatever reason, because now our hotline, you find men variable vari kufona more kupfuura vakadzi, which is still a good thing because at the end of the day we are against violence and exploitation. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's good to know that, you know, coming from being a victim of gender-based violence, you are now a survivor and you're now helping people within your own community who are also going through a similar story to yours. For someone who's listening right now and who is seeing you at this point, this is Precious now, this is what we see, but you say that you were a shell before you couldn't even recognize yourself.
Yeah.
What would you want to say if they're experiencing any form of gender-based violence?
Because I've walked in the shoes, I would honestly say that the journey, even after you come out, is still painful, but it's worth it. Oftentimes, people vanobuda, it's easy kuti habuda, but it's difficult as well, because if you ask me how many times did we break up, nima ex hangu, several times, and one cannot understand. I know there is someone out there who have done that to an extent yekuti isusu vacho vari kutry kumubetsera, we end up giving up because you don't understand zvinonga zvichiitika. So myself as well, I've done that. Apa ndiri kutaura kuti vasafile judged uye kune vachatiteerera vasafunga kuti hazvisi normal. It's normal. It's just one moment, especially when you have people around you who believe in you, who are there to support, which is you people, everyone. Be a mother, mwana, everyone. We are supposed to be helping that person. So I can say kuti it's worth it, and panotobudika hakuna problem inoramba iripo. And the good thing now, my police stations in Zimbabwe, we now have that victim-friendly unity where one can just go. They are not there kurambanisa navanhu. Sometimes munotogariswa moyananiswa kuti baba otopiwa caution kana kuti mai otopiwa caution kuti musarove, musaite mhirizhonga, musapwanye zvinhu, which is something that we didn't have then. And we have a lot of organization now where one can just reach out and talk about issue, especially at 12. We say sometimes if you just feel like crying, call and let's cry together. But at the end of that call, I know we will be smiling together. Saka, at the end of the day, it's you who is supposed to make the first step. I know it's difficult to reach out to a relative because, you know, hatidi kuzoti pamafunction vanhu vakumwa tea nenyaya dzedu. Saka, because kwandiri, I felt safe to talk to strangers because those parents were strangers. And my family members came to know about my story after. Now ndakumira ndakutaura nezvazvo, but then they couldn't. Even myself, I couldn't even tell them. Saka normalize speaking out, even mukombi, than kuzvichengeta, because you bottle up to an extent yekuti it will come a time yekuti bhodho rere richapwanyika, kupwanyika ndokufa kwako. Oro iwe wacho uri kuabviswa ndiwe uchapedzisira waita sei wauraya, because ihasha. 1 second cheche kuti uchangotora chidhina uchitema munhu, then he's gone. So it's better to talk about it and ask help, even kunana tete vakaita sesu vasiri vemumhuri. We have other ways to help you. Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Precious, for coming through right here on Against All Odds, sharing your story.
Thank you.
It's great to hear that you've actually opened an organization that is also dedicated at helping those people who also go through gender-based violence. Well, there you have it. Gender-based violence is real. And remember, if you are a victim of gender-based violence, you can seek help. It's always important to do so. There are so many different organizations that can actually assist you. If you'd like to get in touch with us with the number that is appearing on your screen to get some of this information of where you can get help, please do so by contacting us on the number that is appearing on your screen. This is Against All Odds, and we bring you programs that are dedicated to make sure we inform you, educate you, and also give you inspirational stories that can help you and those in your communities. Until next time, do take care.